What's up? Welcome back to another episode of the hktpodcast. This episode of the podcast is once again supported by our friends at 35bikes.com. 35 Bikes make the best bike components for the best prices. So, because you listen to the podcast and we want to give you guys a gift, head to 35bikes.com, enter the promo code podcast, and you'll get 20% off your entire order and also get free global shipping. We are also, once again, literally supported by Saxx Underwear. Now, Saxx do make the best boxer shorts on planet Earth. You can ask Danny Hart, Brooke McDonald, Ken Block, all these insane athletes all choose Saxx Underwear. So if you want to wake up, put your legs in two holes and have an angel cupping your nutsacks all day, then all you have to do is go to saxxunderwear.com, find your local stockist, go, part with your money, and your life will be changed forevermore. It's as simple as that. Righty, let's get on with this episode.
Hi, I'm Ollie Wilkins, and this is the hktpodcast. Hold tight, freshers. Okay.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the hktpodcast. We are here once again. The sun is shining outside. It's a beautiful day here in England and positive vibes all round. Again, if you're a new listener, welcome to the podcast. If you've been around for a little while, then thank you again for your continued support. If you are one of those new guys that's just joined us, if you do enjoy this episode, please head to iTunes. We're very close to hitting a milestone of reviews, so please leave a review, make it as funny as possible so we can share it on our social media. And it goes a long, long way, guys, so thank you for doing that if you do it. Steel City Downhill happens this coming weekend, so if you're in and around Sheffield, head over to that. Don't forget to stop by and say a quick hello if you see me wandering around too, hopefully with a beer in hand and enjoying the sunshine. And that's pretty much it, guys. Not a great deal happening. Episode 50 is coming up pretty soon. That's going to be a good one. With a little bit of luck, all that stuff goes to plan, and we'll be dropping that very soon. And I guess on today's show we have Craig Stikman Glaspell. He is the head honcho at TLD, Troy Lee Designs, for the bike department, amongst other things. He's been in the industry for a long time, so no doubt he's going to drop some knowledge on us, and looking forward to this conversation. It's one of those ones which I look forward to doing because you can't really research too hard because there's not a great deal of information out there about him, and it's about just hitting record and seeing what happens, which personally I enjoy doing that. It's a test. So without further ado, let's welcome to the podcast Mr. Craig Glaspell, aka Stikman.
So we're supposed to be fresh into it.
Yeah, there you go. We're in. Is that okay?
We can pull this off.
We can do it, dude. We're in. We're in.
We have the technology.
Well, unfortunately not the other night, but it's the story for another day.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Welcome to episode number 49. And on today's podcast, we have Mr. Craig Stikman Glaspell of TLD fame, I guess now. And dude, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. It's awesome to finally have you on here.
Yeah, stoked to be on here and appreciate you asking me. I've been
not at all, man.
Quite a roster of cool guests. That's how I caught on to the show and started listening. And
that's appreciated, dude. Obviously, I noticed
commenting. And,
yeah, exactly. It doesn't go unnoticed. When people reach out and they say nice things or say you've listened, it's it's crazy, especially when it's someone who works in the industry like yourself. It's an even bigger pat on the back. So thank you.
Cool.
It only felt like the right thing to do, buddy, was to get you on here for a chat.
Sweet.
It's been crazy though, man. The guest thing. I mean, I've had this conversation a few times. It was never really my plan was to go after these bigger and bigger and bigger guests. It just kind of snowballed. But, I think, you know what it's like. I mean, you're obviously a podcast fan. Some of the greatest stories come out of someone you've never heard of in your entire life. So
For sure.
That's kind of always what I want to do, is just like put an episode out and people are like, who the hell's this? Not that they do that with you. I'm just saying, like, in general,
Oh, they will. I think it boils down to, there has been this, and not saying podcasting's new, but it feels like it's new in our little bike space world, and people dabbled with it, but now it seems, so there is a void for, it goes back to the content thing. Everybody talking about content, whether that's audio, video, or stories, and we're so bombarded with so many types of media. I think it's really nice to, whether you're driving or working on a project at home or whatever I listen to podcasts when I'm riding my bike a lot,
right.
to hear stories, whether they're people's working stories or their athletic stories or just anything.
Yeah.
Gets back to the storytelling nature of what mountain biking and BMX and dirt jumping and all that lifestyle we live is,
for sure,
the storytelling part. So I think that's what's resonating with, I know for me, and I think a lot of other people.
Hopefully. I mean, same as you, I listen to these things, when I drive a lot for my job, obviously. So I'm always in the van listening to stuff, and then I'll come home, go for a ride or a run and throw a podcast in. And I'm a bit of an anomaly because I can burn through like hours and hours of these in a week,
Yeah. Same.
It's something that, I don't know, man. They've really it's been a big part of my life, like listening to podcasts. I've done a lot of driving over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and there's that whole thing of, I heard a quote ages ago which was about being mindful, not mindless. When you've got do you know what I mean? When you've got driving time, you can sit there and just veg out, or you can consume something and try and learn something and hear some stories and stuff. So
I wish it was around, back in my heyday of running teams and running tech support and driving all over the country, and when we were in Europe too, but I was doing, I don't know, 30,000 miles a year going to all the Northern Nationals, and I had tons of CDs listening to music. But now you look back and you're like, man, I wish I had all this, whether it be learning or whether it be stories or entertainment. I really wish we had that back then. The most I ever, could even get close to was if I came into a town that I could get the Howard Stern show, who's a big talk show host back in the day, and I mean he's still around, but I would get him and he'd have wild interviews with celebrities or porn stars or whatever the hell it was. That was super entertaining, but that was it. Once you were out of that city and that frequency bailed out, you were left with your tunes, which is cool too, but it would have been rad to have all this stuff back then.
I found over the years I've got a lot of pointless, stupid shit information in my brain that because I listen to so much varied stuff. Someone will come over to my house and we'll have a random conversation about jiu-jitsu, and I'm like blah 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 blah. Your friends are like, how the fuck do you know that? But,
I've turned into, I've already been the annoying guy, but now I'm the super annoying guy because I have worthless shit to rattle off that I heard on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got to the point where, especially with my girlfriend, that it's kind of embarrassing because I always say, I once heard, I never go I read in a book once. It's no, I once heard this. And that I've just got a fragment of information that I'm kind of holding on to. It's funny.
Sure.
But no, man, thank you so much again. For me as well, what I like about this is this is to me the beauty of a podcast as well, because with you being not necessarily in the spotlight, it's more of a challenge to me, if that makes sense. It's right, you can't really read that many interviews because you've not done all that many. Obviously, you were on Vital's podcast a year or so ago, which is awesome. So for anyone listening to this, go check that one out too. So I've listened to that, but apart from that, you sort of come in just right, let's just have a conversation. Whereas I've been guilty in the past, especially when I started doing this, of really researching too much and trying to stick to a script, and then sort of going off the script and not knowing how to get it back. And it's
sure,
I don't want it to be an interview or anything like that. It's just let's just have a conversation for a while.
Fair play.
So yeah, that's kind of it's a big learning thing as well. Obviously, you're always kind of learning how to do this and little tricks and tips you pick up and stuff. But yeah, for sure, I look forward to doing this sort of thing a little bit more, if I'm honest.
Cool.
Anyway, so tell me about Stikman. I mean, how on earth did you first get into mountain biking?
Oh man, it was starting a relationship with a bike shop back in the mid to late 80s. I grew up in SoCal, Redondo Beach.
Nice.
I mean, I grew up in North Hollywood, but we moved to the beach when I was like 14 or something, and there was a bike shop in town called Bicycle Center. It was a pretty iconic shop of the day. They were on the mountain bike bandwagon really early on, and I owned a beach cruiser and a BMX bike. Not a race, I wasn't a BMX racer, but a 20-inch wheel bike that was my jamming around town bike. And I was going to that shop, and it became my neighborhood jam, where I got to know all the guys there, and not being a cyclist at all, other than riding a bike around a neighborhood. And then I got a job, taking out the trash. And again, for somebody that I never had aspirations of being a cyclist or a racer or anything, but it was the shop.
What sort of age are we talking right now? Sorry,
it had like 14-ish or something. Right. Okay. 14, 15. And so they kind of, I was going to say took me under their wing, but it was, it was mutual. I liked the mountain bike lifestyle and culture that they were involved in. They were going on these bitchin' rides and trips and riding our local terrain, which for that area is called Palos Verdes. It's just a tiny little trail zone.
Right.
But with a lot of steep drops. Like, it wasn't like big loops. I just remember it was just all these drops and shoots, and we'd all challenge each other. Are you going to do it? Awesome. Are you going to do it? But anyways, Troy Braswell, he was the owner of the shop. And this dude, again, was way ahead of the curve on mountain biking. He was building pretty trick mountain bikes before anybody else, building Richies and Fishers, all the handmades, and Merlin Titaniums, the early ones, and Fat Chance and Salsa. And he was hacking stuff together, like playing with drivetrains and trying to get, the smallest granny gear. And he was welding stuff himself and just cobbling shit together to I guess innovate and elevate the ride. But it was really him. It's funny, it's another Troy, but he just got me hooked on it, and I fell in love with the sport of just riding. And then he started taking me to some local mountain bike races. So this is still 14, 15, 16 in the late 80s, like 86, 87, 88. Whether local stuff for us was like Big Bear, some of the longer big events were like when Mammoth was popping up.
Yeah.
So I started going to the Mammoth events, and I'd never seen anything like it other than a pro sports game, the amount of people at this event racing mountain bikes was just, I had to do it.
Okay.
I was already starting out in the culture of it, and it wasn't even like my family wasn't into it. Like, they were kind of my second family, and not like there was any drama at home or anything, but
they adopted you.
Yeah, I was always hanging out at the bike shop, coming home
yeah.
late. My mom was always like, my mom was stoked because I was hanging out with a bunch of granola, healthy lifestyle mountain bikers versus a bunch of drug addict, whatever
stuff.
But it did, the bike thing did derail me from school. I mean, I started ditching school to go on. Then I just, by 16, I was pretty heavy into it. I discovered road riding, wanted to be a road racer while I was mountain biking, but I was ditching school to go on like my big base 100-mile days and forging my mom's signature on. I was a horrible student because I wanted to be a bike racer. So like I said, I was never really had aspirations of, I never even saw it or paid attention to it. And once exposed to it, I was hooked. So, I got kicked out of high school, had to go to like this continuation school, they call it, for losers. And I got there, and it was just all these drug addict drunks and I'm like, and everybody's like, dude, what's your problem? And I'm like, oh, I just ride bikes a lot.
Mountain biking.
So the whole school thing was a shit show. It was apparent I wasn't going to be a college guy.
Yeah.
But by then I started, having some success as a junior on the road and mountain biking. And, that's when I discovered John Tomac, the guy was my hero, right? Like, and he was probably, when I was 16, 17, 18, he was probably in his early 20s. So he's only maybe 5, 6, 7 years older than me, but that was the guy, right? Like,
that was kind of the dude you were looking up to then, really. Like,
yeah, he was on his road to being the greatest of all time, but with wicked style, and he brought that BMX flair to mountain biking. And then luckily enough, my neighbor, this guy Charlie Litsky, who passed away in '93, but my neighbor Charlie was Tomac's agent. And so I got to know Tomac personally and traveled with him early on when I was aspiring to be a racer. Now we're talking 89, 90, 91.
Okay.
And then I think I liked the behind the scenes part. Like, it was apparent I was never going to be great. And I always like to be really good at what I do. So I was like, I enjoy this and everything, but I'm never going to be a John Tomac, not even close. I don't have it in me to dedicate to the training, and nor do I think, genetically or physically.
Yeah. Anyway,
that was the move I made early on. And I started working on some pros bikes early on, because there wasn't full on team mechanics at the time.
Right. Obviously, the sport's relatively still in its infancy,
yeah,
right?
Still really new. You're just starting to get team trucks and team staff, and it was like, so Dave Cullinan, who was the '92 world downhill champion, that '92 season was kind of when I started to phase out of racing, and he had his sponsor, Team Iron Horse, pay me like $200 a month to be his mechanic for the last couple rounds.
Right.
And I wasn't making. I was still working at the bike shop.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, were you still working, or yeah?
Yeah. I was still there, and the bike shop, was totally supportive of me going racing, and then later on was supportive of me, like, kind of moving into the industry, and like, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks helping out this Dave Cullinan guy, and who we actually pulled him over from BMX, Cully.
Okay.
And but yeah, so just dabbling with helping some pros out, and I was working at the shop as a mechanic, not like in sales or anything. So I was very mechanical, and I loved tearing stuff apart and fixing it and all that. So it started to seem like you could maybe have a job at this, not at $200 a month, but there were guys from that era like Gravy, Steve Gravenitis, who was Missy's mechanic early on, and Bob Gregorio, who was Tomac's mechanic. These were the two iconic mechanics, like pro mechanics. And I'm like, wow, I want to be one of those guys. I could do that shit. And so yeah, it's the path I took on the mechanical team management side. And then I'd say, that the mid 90s, I'd say me, Gravy, and Bob Gregorio were like it sounds super douchey, but like the celebrity mechanic guys. Like, we had sponsorships, and we had ads with Park Tools, and
no way.
And we started making really good money to the point where a lot of the newcomers, I mean, I was only in the game for 3 years or so, but a lot of the new people coming from shops and stuff. I remember there was talk of trying to form a mechanics union so we could all get fair pay. And
really?
I know me, Gravy, and Bob were like, no fucking way were you doing this. Like, we're demanding a higher rate because we feel our skills are representative of that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't just be a minimum wage kind of thing, which I look back on it. It never really took off.
Well, the union thing, right?
Yeah. But that was the beginning of the real peak of mountain bike racing, with mechanics making dough, racers making dough, team staff making dough. So that whole, and just to, jam through the 90s from like 94 to 2001 was was the glory days for everybody making money and the exposure and blah 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 blah.
Do you think that was like the peak?
I've been saying, people ask that question for the last 10 years.
Oh, really? Sorry.
And I would no, and I would always say, absolutely, we'll never see those days again.
Yeah, I mean,
but then Gwen came along and totally reinvented on a pay scale. I mean, he's changed the game, and some would argue, for the worse, because in some cases he's demanding higher dollar amounts than anybody else, and it kind of, for some brands, it gets them, devotes the bulk of their budget to one guy, and but it's not cut and dry. It's not he's ruined it or he's made it better. There's
going to be mixed opinions on that.
Well, it takes a lot of analysis, and nobody knows what everybody's budgets are, but I mean, he's probably, and I know what the best of the best back in that high paying era, whether it was a Nico or a Petey or a Cedric Gracia, I think Gwen's getting paid more than that now. Okay. And it's a total anomaly. And he's doing it. I mean, people are paying him. I mean, TLD, we were involved with Gwen for 5 years. But first 3 were head to toe. The last 2 were helmet only, and then he just moved on to other deal. Yeah. He's A-Stars gear, and he just moved on to Bell helmets.
That's
right.
So that's right.
I think, I mean, and definitely in the women's case, I know like Lee just did her podcast with Vital, and I think she talked a little bit about the pay, and I mean, she made a lot of freaking money back in that era. And
so when you were spannering then, like, what sort of money were you talking? Is it a significant amount of money? I mean, obviously it's a job where you're only working certain months of the year too, so that's a massive bonus, right?
Yeah, I mean, the problem was it trained the psychology of me to, I wouldn't say it trained me to, he just had so much freedom.
Yeah.
And that freedom training, if you will, transcended later in life for a proper desk job and even parenting. Like Lee and I didn't have our daughter Grace till we were in our mid 30s after 15 years of bike racing and doing whatever the hell we want whenever we want. So it's double whammy, what the glory days of bike racing trained us to be. But yeah, like in the peak for the mechanicking era for me was probably that last year at Mongoose at 98. Like the base salary was really good, like 75 grand. And then I had built in bonuses on how the athletes did. So just like if you're a racer and you get first through fifth incentives, I had the same thing. Like if Lee or Lopes wins, I get X amount, second X amount, third, fourth, fifth. And I remember when I pitched that to
did you invent it?
Well, I pitched it to Bob Marchavicus, he's now the VP at Specialized. He's a mentor of mine, and he was there back in the day at Mongoose. And I remember I pitched that bonus schedule to him, and I remember him laughing his ass off. And then when he was done laughing, he was like, "I'm so impressed that you had the balls to put that on there. I'm going to give it to you."
Brilliant.
I guess I learned back then through Bob, like if you don't ask for something.
Yeah, cheap ones, cheap forever too, right?
Yeah. So, and that thing, again, back to this whole heyday in air quotes was, it had a rollover program. So, there was good money to be a mechanic. And like you said, you really only were hustling on the road from April to September. And in the off season, there's testing and
there's things to
getting
do,
all the parts ordered and all that stuff. But now that I'm, working class guy, like, real office work, especially, what I do here at TLD with running the bike brand, it's just endless deadlines and trying to catch up, and you're always pinned. And it's good. but
yeah, for sure.
It was a pretty bitchin' lifestyle, and tons of free bikes and traveling on somebody else's dime.
That's always nice, right? Sounds like you
For
learned
sure.
a lot from it though, as well. You know, like you said, you come out with like a bunch of life skills, and you know, being able to negotiate with people is a massive thing too.
I mean, it's one of those things. You know, Lee and I we probably have financial regrets and houses we sold and shit like that, but the whole bike racing lifestyle taught us, I mean, immeasurable things, whether that's, you know, working with different cultures from the traveling all those years, negotiating with sponsors, logistics planning, event planning. There's just so many things. And for me, you know, product development, it indirectly, you're a product manager when you're in those roles.
Oh, yeah.
You're working with the engineers, and you're seeing what works and what doesn't. And even not just outside the racing, but, you know, the average Joes, super fans that come to the races, and while you're tuning a bike, or, you know, if you're team staff and you're getting the riders signed up, and you talk to those people that come out to the races to check out bike racing, oftentimes they ride bikes too. And I used to talk to those people all the time. You know, they were interested in the tires that we're testing, or the rims, or the brakes, or the whatever, because, you know, oh, I really prefer this type because I do this kind of riding. And bouncing ideas off of the common man too was part of the game. It still is too. I mean, still go to the races and watch the interaction with the team staff and the riders, and all that stuff still exists. So there's such good intel at the races. Yeah. That
again, I think like mountain biking still got like good sort of like kind of still down to earth, if you know what I mean. You know, if you went to another sporting event, there's no way you'd get anywhere near 90% of the athletes and be able to have a chat with them, or, you know, I think with downhill you can party with the guys after if you really want to.
Oh, it's crazy. and you know, I think I wouldn't say we forget about that, because it does get brought up from time to time, but totally in comparison to other sports, you know, I work at a brand that half of our business is motocross and supercross, and you know, these guys, the racers, they come by here a lot, and they're regular dudes, and like the downhill guys, they just get paid a lot more money, and they're at a stadium with, you know, 50,000 people, and so there is an air of they're a little more untouchable. But you think about those people that get to sit on the chairlift at Whistler during Crankworks and sit next to the Luca Shaws and the Bren Dogs and the Gwynns, is like, and I read these stories, whether it's on their social media or on some forums, like, I rode up the chairlift with Bren Dog, and man, it was so cool. Like, holy crap. Yeah. That is sick.
It's crazy. That is, you know, you'd never say, oh, I did a track walk with Eli at the weekend. It just would never happen, right? Like,
totally.
I think there's some interesting paradigms between mountain biking and motocross/supercross, which I've got a few things written down, actually. I was just thinking about today while I was out walking the dog, which I want to bring up to you in a bit. Like, but there's some super interesting ones. But for right now, sort of, you know, just sticking with your career a little bit, why and how did you end up getting out of the mechanic side of the industry?
Like in 2001, after the Schwinn bankruptcy, Schwinn GT bankruptcy, which I was at Schwinn, they went bankrupt. You know, a bunch of us didn't get paid, and blah blah blah. I think many people have heard that story. Yeah. So it got resurrected, got bought out by another company. They slowly resurrecting the race teams, and they reached out to me if I wanted to be involved and with Lopes, and, you know, build a XC 4-cross downhill. So we had a 3-person team, and did that for 3 or 4 years. Excuse me.
Bronchitis is still lingering a little way.
I know, man. The sea otter flu got me down. So I did that for 3 or 4 years. My wife had quit in 2001, so I stayed out on the road, and it just wasn't as fun for me to have my missus at home and all the traveling. That's when it really was like, oh shit. I guess most of the reason why I like doing this is that I was traveling with my chick. So
yeah, it takes a special kind of person with that sort of travel commitments. It really does. Like,
for sure. I mean, I know a lot of the guys that still, I mean, they've been doing it forever, whether it's, PD or Brent Dog, who have commitments at home and all the traveling. And for me, it was tough because I was in the position where I was always with my chick for 10 years traveling. So, and then that was gone. So after 4 years of doing that, I made an ultimatum to the GT guys to move into a more office role, like more of a marketing role. The position wasn't created yet. They were still rebuilding the brand. And anyway, just dragging their feet. And at that time, Lee had started a retail clothing business that had taken off. Okay. And she was like, you know what? You don't even need to work. I was like,
wow,
okay.
It's like 99 again.
Yeah, sweet. So that's when we, we're like, maybe it's time to have a kid. And that's when we starting the family thing. And so I was stay-at-home dad for 4 years, and from 05 to 09, really. Nice. And I completely checked out of the bike industry. I even stopped riding bikes. Like, I was over the whole scene. I think I was probably disgruntled and bitter. Like, I didn't really seek out to get a job when I made that ultimatum to GT. Okay. And I think when Lee was like, you don't need to work. We're making enough money, and let's have a kid, and you can stay home and take care of the kid. I think we were both, screw the bike business, because they didn't want to keep us around with open arms kind of thing. Yeah. But I don't know if that's a fair assessment. That's just a kooky thing, but whatever. I think we thought that. I think we thought that at the time, and we don't need the bike industry. And because Lee had started on her path completely away from it after trying to get a gig in the bike biz, and then in 09, stay-at-home dad. I was doing the e-commerce for Lee's shop, and I missed bike racing. I missed all the friends from the bike biz, and we went to Crankworks for the first time in 2008. Nice. And we both got the bug. Like, oh my God, we missed this. We missed the community. We missed the racing. We missed, developing products. Because there's always, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 year shifts of when innovation's really cracking on. And that was one of those bubbles of, like, a lot of new shit was coming out, and whether it was materials or tires or so we were intrigued by it again, and I really wanted to get back working full time. The stay-at-home dad thing was just wild. Yeah. And running a women's clothing business e-commerce site was just like, what am I doing? I was involved in I was doing photography, because I think every dipshit like me was like, oh, you just buy a bitchin' camera and you're a photographer. Yeah. So I was, I was making money doing it, but on the photography thing real quick, there was a time where, because I've always been a huge fan of beautiful imagery. I never was a photographer, but I always appreciated a great shot. Yeah. And I always had mad respect for all the bike photographers of the early era to today, and still do. Out of all the bitchin' videos and all that shit, a sick photo is still just, I agree. I could stare at it forever. So, but during that time, I was like, I remember, trying to sell a shot from an event that, like, Sven was at, and Sven was a photographic hero of mine. Like, his photo, I loved his photos, and I kind of knew him. Yeah. But I was just like, man, I don't want to compete against him. Like, he's fucking destroys my photography. Yeah. And so I knew that wasn't going to be a path either, because I didn't want to compete against I know it's a weird deal. Like in racing, it's like, yeah, I'll compete against guys and try to kick their ass, and I'll still have respect for them. But in the photography game,
feels a bit of a cutthroat, maybe.
Yeah, that, and I don't know, just such a high respect for knowing what it takes to get a great image.
That's
all
cool, yeah.
all gear aside and all that shit. Like, to capture a beautiful photo is a true talent in art. So I kind of threw in that towel, like, okay, enough of that. And I became, when I started working at Intense, that was like my first step back into the bike biz.
Okay, so that was like 09, something like that.
I think 2010.
Okay.
And I've known Jeff Stieber from Intense forever. Really good friends. We were actually partners with Jen and Jeff, who are married, with our retail store.
Okay, right.
So kind of through Jeff, I was still getting industry updates, what's going on, and so he didn't have a full-time marketing position yet, but he wanted to create it, and I was in a place where I'm like, dude, I will dump the garbage at your place. I just I got to get back in the biz, and I got to get, like, I was a newcomer to the full-time office jam. I'd always been out in the field guy.
Yep.
And I also I feel like I had to erase that whole, Stikman known as just a bike mechanic guy.
Yeah. Were there some connotations as well from like the Sticks and Stones site, maybe, or anything like that?
Yeah, like, oh, he's a shit talker, bike mechanic.
You said it, dude.
Yeah. So and that had stuck. Even I went away for so long, and I shut my dumbass website down, and I think that went from 99 to 2004.
Right.
And so yeah, the stigma of that site, just being a bike mechanic and crap like that. I'd read it on forums, and I thought there were some suits in the industry that would never have me for more than those kind of roles,
Yeah.
So Jeff Stieber at Intense, I owe a lot to for where I'm at now, and it seems like a short period of time, but I guess it is long since 2010. But yeah, forgive me that shot in a showing. We turned the brand narrative of Intense around a little bit. Got a start to it at least, and my goal there was to, Jeff was just doing everything,
right?
Designing the bikes, to the marketing, to taking the photos, doing the videos, and like, man, if I could take away some of those elements, talking to the media, handling the athletes, and let Jeff focus on what Jeff does best, which is make beautiful mountain bikes, that would be a success to me. And we had a great time, and I only left because he had a partner. That was a total nightmare. It was just a toxic, really bad environment, and my bullshit tolerance is pretty high. I think people think I come off like a disgruntled a-hole, but I don't think I am in real life.
Right. It must have been cool too, because you're like doing the job, but you're doing it from like a passion perspective. Like, you're not in there because you need the money or anything. Like, you could by the sound of it, you could just walk away and be like, no worries, guys. Like, catch you later.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff told me, he's like, well, I don't even have this position created. It's not. I mean, even if we get it created, it's not even going to pay a lot of money. And I literally was like, dude, I don't care. I need something on paper.
Yeah.
That says, I'm not just X from the past or whatever. And so yeah, it was full on. Let's do some good work and try to turn the brand around. And that was working with the CRC team at the time, and so a lot of fun stuff in a very short period of time. I still would have been there, but like I said, his partner was a nightmare. Those guys didn't get along, and Jeff was trying to fix that while I was there. And then there came a time when I was just like, again, Jeff's a dear friend of mine, still is today. And I told him then, I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here, just because the guy's driving me crazy. And he drove Jeff crazy too. Jeff has since resolved that
Okay.
Scenario.
Okay.
And the business has thrived. And the problem back when I was there with intense growth was the complete bikes. They were just building frames at the time.
Got you.
And the bulk of the people wanted to buy just a complete bike. Not everyone is building bikes from the frames. Yeah. And so they turned the business around, got the complete bikes, started the carbon. I was around when we did the first carbine bike. So that was fun project too. And then this, Troy, I've been talking to Troy. I've known Troy since the 90s. Like anybody that's been in the race scene knows Troy, and it was, Troy, our buddy. I'd always heard stories about working for Troy.
Okay.
Like that'd be a nightmare or that is a nightmare. But I think it was a lot of fables and shit, because I was nervous when I talked to him and he proposed coming in here, and I'm like, oh man, but we're good buddies. I don't want to fuck that up. And so I'm here. I am 6.5 years later.
Really?
And I've never, like, is he a quirky, crazy artist dude? For sure.
Yes.
But I've never left, and this is the God honest truth, I've never left a day of working here just going, oh my God, he's such an asshole. I can't stand him ever.
That's
good. Even our worst disagreements are just good banter, different philosophies on what a certain product should be, or a rider type, or any of that. So anyway, that's been a bitchin' road for sure.
Sounds like it. I lived in California for a little while and visited Troy Lee many a time, and one thing that I'm pretty jealous of, dude, to be fair, is you get to work in that building, which no doubt, like, it rubs off after 6.5 years. But if I was ever feeling demotivated, just go stand in the shop and just be like, yeah, this is sick.
Oh, for sure.
It's such a cool place.
And people that know me really well, and a lot of my industry friends, and I've been bitching and moaning in the last year and a half since we had a private equity come in and try to help, invest in the business. And we've had a lot of changes, and most for the better, but ultimately changes, right? And a lot of changes that we needed to have to our systems and processes and procedures. And because at the end of the day, we joke around that it's a 40-year-old startup. Still ran by Troy, who's here every day. And, he's still, I think when the investment deal went down, people thought Troy totally sold out, but it's a minority share in the company, and Troy still runs it.
He still paints too?
Yeah, he doesn't actually paint helmets, but he does. Just yesterday he did 3 work orders. So a work order is when a PD or a Brendog or a Seminuk or whoever needs a lid painted, they get a hold of Troy, and they just talk about what they're into. Like, I'm really feeling some gold stripes or silver or copper, and I want, with Mitro Paletto, he wants Hawaiian flowers. That was the last helmet we did. Right. So Troy will draw all that stuff up on a work order and then hand that off to the painters. Wow. But
I've been lucky enough to take a tour around there too before. Again, obviously, for anyone who's not been, it's the sickest place to work, surely. There's memorabilia all over the place. Like, we got a somewhat behind the scenes tour. I think I'm going back to 2000 and I don't know, 9 maybe.
Okay,
yeah, something like that.
That was probably back when we used to have the Troy Lee Designs KTM Red Bull motocross
was all based
team.
There. Yeah,
used to be, and that's where I'm sitting now in the vacant race shop, because it's the quietest place. But
okay.
They moved down the road. KTM built them a new facility, and but yeah, back to the place that it is similarly to Intense, when I could walk around and watch things being made with hands, which is super rad. That's the same thing. If I'm pissed off or something didn't go my way, or a product's late, or whatever the problem of the day is, literally can go down to the paint shop, and I watch those dudes. I mean, I don't sit there for hours, but just 5 minutes of watching these artists paint a helmet, I get to see that, and I think that helps me put things into perspective. Like, again, because I am no artisan of using my hands. I'm just more appreciative of people that can still make stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I admire, what Troy's built that started with paint. And, retail paint work is such a small part of our business, with people, average Joes off the street getting a helmet painted. But we do enough to keep the paint shop alive and profitable. And that's where a lot of the design work is born from too.
Cool. Right.
Sometimes we give the painters parameters, like, we want to use these 3 colors, go wild, or sometimes it's just do what you want. And a lot of that stuff makes it into the production run. But so, to see that stuff happening every day is pretty rad to see. And it again, helps you put any
keeps you motivated
drama
too, surely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not a creative. I'm not a designer, but it definitely helps steer my brain in the right direction to see what those artists are up to. And just, a fly on the wall a lot, watching Troy's interaction with the painters and the designers, and what motivates him and what excites him. And
obviously, as well as an amazing artist, a very good businessman. Surely to have created what he's created, which is one of the most desirable brands. Like, for us, like, in our clique.
I think if he, it's one of those things I've been meaning to ask him, like, just to sit down with some wine and have a proper chat with him. Like, if he were to start this business today, what would he offer himself as advice? Because, like I said, he's almost 40 years into this. Honestly, he's never made a ton of money, because when he did, he put it into racing.
Okay. Or
when he did, he put it into future products, which is usually helmets, because they're just extremely expensive to develop. He ain't driving around in a Ferrari with a big baller mansion. This is a guy that sure as shit never thought he'd be where he's at today, from baking visors in his mom's kitchen. But he started a trend with the painting thing, and which has evolved into what it is today. And he's made some bad decisions and some bad moves, but and I think that's, we were running this business like a startup.
Right.
And I wouldn't say it got us into trouble, but we definitely needed some help to grow. And I don't think Troy has, big hopes of being this massive behemoth brand, but definitely wants to innovate more. And, really safety's been his big kick, and revamping the protection line and coming out with some more helmets. And that stuff's not cheap. And again, we're a really small business. I know what our competitors make, whether it's a Foxhead or Bell Giro, and they're just, we pale in comparison,
really,
dollar wise and staff wise. And it may not be perceived, especially if you go to a bike park.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You go to a bike park and you think Troy Lee Designs is a $200 million company.
Yeah.
But you go to most trailheads around the world, and, our coverage isn't as heavy as some of the other big guys. And that's, I don't know if I don't really think that's Troy's aspiration, to be Troy Lee Designs covered on every trailhead, every trail center, every bike park.
We've got that strange industry too, where as soon as something does get like over popular, people will come away from it, because it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's about having the latest, greatest, coolest thing, and it's like, got to be careful of that, right? Like, not oversaturate it, because people go the opposite way.
I think a lot of us, especially us, is let's just try to make products that make the ride better, more comfortable and safer, with, a little asterisk on, looking cool too. And we've definitely changed our, I moved more from the marketing role into the product role a year ago.
Okay.
And so this line that just dropped in March, so about a month ago, was the first whole collection that was, I worked with Troy and Silvio, our creative director, and we pretty much hit the reset button. I think we kind of saw, the previous design team that was here moved on because we thought we were headed in maybe not the wrong direction, but it was still so Troy Lee Designs, meaning so loud and obnoxious,
Okay. Yeah.
which doesn't really work for trail kit. For Supercross and downhill guys,
Yeah, it's chalk and cheese, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
we could be wild all day long in Supercross and downhill and BMX.
Yeah.
But for the trail guy, for whether it's a 20-year-old kid that just rides after school, or old geezers like me that ride after work, you generally want to put on a jersey that's not too flashy.
Yeah, pretty neutral. Yeah.
Neutral colors, pretty low key on the branding hits. Well, everybody knows that the huge TLD logos, we've kind of moved on from that for the trail kits. And we put all new fabric, all new innovation in the entire product line, and we still have work to do, but back to that ultimate goal of making your bike ride just as comfortable and as enjoyable and as safe as possible. So yeah, I think as long as we all have that as the goal, I think the other shit for the investors will come,
Yeah. There's definitely going to be some goals to reach, dude. That's for sure. So are you still handling sort of like athletes and sponsorship or stuff like that? Or have you taken a step back away from that stuff?
Yeah. So I'm not in the day-to-day mix of that. And when Troy pitched the new gig, because he needed a product lead that had expertise in the bike realm, I think he was gonna hire for that position. And I recommended a couple people, but then it became apparent that Troy was like, "Man, I think you should do it." And I was down for the challenge, because it is product line management is probably, like I said, indirectly over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I did some of it, and, actually had that role back in the late 90s when Jeff started Intense Tires. It was a really short stint, but product manager for Intense Tires. And so indirectly did some of that stuff. But long story short, we made that move, but I had said, we're going to have to get somebody, like a younger version of me that just has their finger on the pulse of racing and knows all the media and wants to go to the races all the time and can hang with the boys when they need to, build this Grom program, build this women's program. And we just didn't have the budget to do it.
Okay.
So that's when, to hire another person on. So that's when it kind of pivoted into this global category director role, where my focus is product line, but then I work with our marketing director, Dave Casella, on handling the day-to-day. And we got my guy Tim Daniels, who handles the athletes' product fulfillment and in the social media. I still handle the contracts, the elite rider contracts, and farming the new talent.
Sounds
whether
fun.
So it's a pretty heavy role for sure. But it's the nature of a small company. We don't have the resources to have a fleet of people handling each specific thing. And, Tim's got his hands full with all that he does. And Dave Casella's got his hands full with the whole moto side of marketing. And
he does everything, right? Like across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and I work with him on the bike narrative, which has been great, because I can bring better insight to the product and more of the product marketing side.
Okay, right.
Than we had before. There was always kind of even for me when I was handling solely the marketing, there was always kind of a brick wall between us and the product teams. And that's part of the reason why the previous bike design team is moved on, and it's a new machine that I'm part of and integrated in, and I'm for what we had to do in such a short period of time, which is reinvent this line. We probably bit off more than we should have chewed in terms of, I mean, we changed everything, every
Really?
jersey, every short, with some pretty heavy, with everything being Blue Sign approved, which is that environmentally sustainable production practices, and working with the mills to get new fabrics, and we really changed the game. And then there's helmets in the pipeline. I mean, we got this stage enduro.
I haven't
full
seen
face
it, but someone
coming out.
commented on Instagram just literally before we started recording, saying check out the new helmet on Vital, and I didn't have a chance to actually look at it. So it sounds like obviously with the investment and stuff, you've got a bunch of products happening basically.
Yeah, so that helmet will come out. It'll go for sale in August. Middle August is what we're hoping for. Cool. We're on track. It was supposed to be under the radar until then, but at the Sea Otter, Troy had and that's the beauty of this small business ran by this wild dude. Troy was he's just like, man, I think we should get some coverage at the Sea Otter. I mean, all the media is going to be there, and we're not going to have another chance to scream this loud. And I'm like, you know what, I can't disagree or agree with you, so
bring it out.
So we showed a couple, I think Pink Bike, Vital,
right.
GMBN did something, and a couple of others, and it created a big shitstorm with our distributors and dealers who they are aware it's coming. They're aware of the dates. They're aware of a target pricing, but they just didn't get all the details set in stone before it was shown.
Got you.
And that was could have been done better, but ultimately the feedback's been good. What's the goal when you do something like that? The goal is in our case, is to head off people from buying what is the leading product at the time. And it's, a lot of these detachables, like the Bell Super DH or the Giro Switchblade or the Fox Pro Frame. So in our case, if people could just get wind of a helmet that
it might change,
that goes above and beyond all the testing criteria. It's DH certified. It looks super bitchin'. But ultimately it's super light. It's the lightest helmet we've been able to find. The Met Parachute advertises themselves as the lightest helmet in the world at 700. Ours is under 700 grams.
Right.
So even that whole, we've been dabbling with this forever. To shift into high gear and start the tooling processes and everything is significant investment. And we just decided, we did a lot of testing with the detachable helmets that are on the market. We were not happy with the chin bar mechanisms. I don't think anybody has invented a better mousetrap for that. But Troy was the one that was just like, man, why do you have to detach the thing if you can just have it comfortable enough and light enough and ventilated enough to wear it for a couple hours on a long trail ride or big shuttle day or whatever? Why do you need to take it off? And that's the question he posed to design as they were working with some detachable mechanisms. And then we were like, and what the hell do you do with the thing when you take it off? You're putting it in your pack or clipping it on your handlebars? Is it a neck brace? What the hell are we doing with this thing?
A neck brace.
So we had some early prototypes of some really slick mechanisms, but they all added weight, they all added complexity, and they all added cost. And then the first protos that were at these weight targets we were trying for, and we thought, no way is it going to pass testing. And it did. It blew away. It blew away everyone. So that was the direction we took. And it was further out on the timeline, but we moved it into summer. And so again, back to, what's the intent of leaking something like that earlier than you should? And that was hopefully that guy or that girl that's on the fence of buying one of those other lids maybe goes, whoa, that thing's lighter, and oh man, it's sick. And it's a Troy Lee helmet. I trust that brand for helmets.
Yeah.
Like there's there's people out there that maybe don't like the styling, maybe don't like the graphics sometimes. For the most part they do, but
yeah, definitely.
We've never been called out as a unsafe helmet. The rider testimonials in our open face and full face helmets are vocal enough that everybody tells a buddy that has a buddy that has a buddy that they had a big wreck in a D3 or an A1 or an A2, and I should be dead, that kind of stuff. So that's
saving lives and looking good while doing it.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a botched early leak, but the I wouldn't call it the damage is done, but we've
caused a stir.
all of our people involved that were like, what the hell, that wasn't supposed to be shown, is now they're kind of stoked on it, because if you on all the social comments were people tagging their buddies saying,
really?
I told you should have waited, or hold off on buying that brand X, wait for this one.
Has it been like pretty crazy for you then to see the whole social media side of the industry like take off like it has done? Because you were there in the early days when, you were almost like the start, like the instigator of like the gossip and stuff in a roundabout kind of way, right? And now social media has taken over.
It was like on the website side of things, it was more bloggy. Blog start the early days of blogging, which I guess is somewhat social media, because it was, I did it after, anytime I could get an internet connection, I just update the blog, like here's what's happening in the pits, pit gossip, who's slagging who, and who's running tires that they shouldn't be running, and all that kind of crap. Yeah. And it was all tongue in cheek and fun. And again, back to the culture of mountain biking, it is a loose sport. So it was all, in good fun, nobody took it too seriously, nor did I. And, but man, I think there are those, I try to think of certain athletes, and there's a ton of them that seem like they enjoy all the social stuff that they're supposed to do. Okay. There's brands that instruct you. We don't have it in our contracts with you must post X amount.
That's interesting. Wow. So even a big brand like Trade doesn't really ask for that.
No, right? I feel like it's coming, from, we got some new people involved that have thoughts on that. And
it's such a powerful tool, dude.
I don't disagree with it.
Yeah.
My position is, for the little amount we pay these athletes to put these demands on them has always been hard for me. Mm-hmm. We have you involved with the brand for a reason, and that's because you're part of our family. You're part of our mission. You're part of what we do. Using them for development. The exposure is icing on the cake. The race results and the competition results are icing on the cake. If you choose to do some TLD specific posts, I love my helmet, bitching.
Bonus, yeah.
Not
bonus pay. Just a bonus to you.
Yeah. Exactly. And if we're launching a new product, I'll hit all the guys and girls up and the groms and everybody, like, hey, can you mention something about the new product X? Yeah, no worries. But it's never written in a contract, and never has been. It probably is in the pipeline. But so I think about these athletes that are constantly posting. but it's almost like because they have to, and I personally
you can
find
see
it
straight
annoying,
through it,
but
right? Like you can see straight through most of it. You're just like, and there's a lot of stuff like that, especially now. I mean, we get hit up all the time. I've got X amount of followers. Can I have free this, free that? And I hate that culture. I really do, man. I hate it. That's not the way of going around things, at all. Just because you've bought some followers doesn't mean that we want to send you some free shit. It's
well, and I got into a bit of a friendly heated discussion here with some people here about. They were showing me some of these YouTuber guys like Seth's bike hacks and skills with Phil and all their views and all their subscribers, and I was like, yeah, but so they got a video with X amount of views, 100,000, 200,000. Some of it I watch those things. I don't really get them, like what the allure is. Something tells me there's got to be something shady going on, because I just don't find it that amusing or entertaining. No disrespect to the people that do. Okay. So be it. We're all different. We all like different shit. But there's definitely not any aspirational qualities to it. Like after you watch a Faircloth or Seminuk or Zinc, or there's that. I can't do what those guys do.
Yeah.
But I always use this analogy, and I tell Faircloth this all the time. He's got people. I get people busting my balls every once in a while, like, man, how long are you keeping Brendog around? His results aren't there. And I'm like, I could give two shits about his results, because I mean, there's so many layers as to why you have a guy like Brendog on your team. But
you got a film on Netflix, which is like worth a lot of money.
For sure. But it's like, as a 47-year-old bald dude that works all day, that I try to ride after work. I don't always do, but when I do, if I try to have that fun that, like, him and Ollie, like when I just watch him and Ollie dicking around in the parking lot on GMBN when they're bunny hopping parking stalls or something, and it's just fun, right? Like it's fun with your buddies, and that ultimately is what it's all about. That's what I think draws people into the sport. I think people know I'm probably one of the biggest downhill race fans. But it's that fun on the bikes with your mates that is going to get more people on bikes, which is our core problem that we haven't been really dealing with. But man, that looks fun. I want to try that kind of stuff.
That's
more so than bombing down the rocks in Croatia, which is again, I love it.
It's the F1 really, right? Like, you sit and watch it.
I was up at the Sea Otter on my mobile phone in the campsite at 4 a.m. watching the World Cup. So I love downhill racing, but that's for us hardcore enthusiasts,
Yeah.
It's not, generally is not piquing people to, I've never tried this mountain biking, but my gosh, that looks fun. But they might watch some of these, fun videos playing with the buddies in the woods and doing some skids and having a right laugh, So
definitely, like you say, like kind of like what the guys at 50 to 1 have done. Like that stuff's, you can't kind of help watch that and go, I'm gonna go for a ride after. Like that's sick, I think.
And it's gonna pull the youth. It's gonna keep pulling the youth in. There's more kids riding now than I've ever seen in my life. So, man, if the 50 to 1s or the Brendogs or Seminux videos get these kids, I always say off the couch, but I mean, there's kids doing other shit, whether they're moto guys or skate guys or surf kids, or to check out mountain biking because it looks really fun. Like, oh my God, look how much fun these guys are having.
That's a win, isn't it?
I'm cool with that,
Yeah.
Like,
I think that kind of ties in perfectly as well, like with kids getting into the sport. And do you feel that mountain bikers, I mean, you said before about how little you pay these guys, like, and I know that's a joke, but do you feel that they are, like, paid enough for what that they're doing. And I say that because did you notice that, like, it was really funny that Kyle Strait, called out Sea Otter, saying I only won $400 for second place, and I was like, oh man, you've kind of got a point. Like, I don't know, I don't know what you're used to earning, but it doesn't sound like a lot of money, for.
Yeah, I saw that with Kyle, and I talked to him about it, and it is, man, it's not right. And I know you got two questions with like what we or us brands pay riders, but on the race thing real quick, it's, Sea Otter was going around, and I don't want to slam Sea Otter because they put on a great event. We as a brand love it.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely not
valuable.
Slamming it.
I personally love it, but our 20 by 30 foot spot at the Sea Otter to park our van in was the most expensive it's ever been. We paid almost $7,000 just to park the van.
Wow.
And they were going around telling everybody, record number of race entrants. I want to say it was almost 10,000, like 9,800, I think, race entrants. And the racing ain't cheap. The expo was sold out, completely sold out. And like I said, our little Troy Lee booth was almost $7,000. And then they had, I think they said 70,000 people come in to spectate they buy wristbands to get in. And I think it's around $20. So I don't have a calculator in front of me, but doing the math, a lot of money. Oh, and then there's the sponsorships. I mean, the gold level sponsorships they have there are, I'm pretty sure, $100,000 plus.
Really?
And they have a few of those. Then they go into the silvers, which are, I don't know what the tiering is, but 50 to 75, and then 50 below, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of money being made. I am not saying it's cheap to put on the event. But to see, that slalom, it's one of the last slaloms in the world. It's this halo product of slalom.
Yeah.
It does get some spectators. It's a good time. It's towards the end of the day. Everybody's drinking beers, watching some racing, heckling, taking their shirts off.
How it should be.
And so, yeah. So, they're getting away with the racers who love it, the fans who love it. They're getting away with paying them shit money. And maybe it's on par with what the downhill makes and the cross country and the enduro. I don't know what all the other events paid.
Again, I don't know. I'm not sure,
but it did. I was surprised, but I don't think it's ever paid well. Sea Otter's never been known for its prize list, So, but yeah, that sucks. And even, and then back to your original question about paying the athletes, whether you're a gear brand or a bike brand. And I've tried my hardest to change the previous models here of what was fair pay for an athlete partnership. I was shocked when I came in at what we were paying some of the guys and girls, and I've definitely changed it, which I don't try to say that like to pat myself on the back just because it was, hell, ultimately I'm a fan of racing, and I'm a fan of the athletic, the roads you got to travel to be a professional athlete. Yeah. But I'm also a bit of a businessman. I know I got to work within some budgets, and I've grown our sports marketing budget and try to do the best we can, but it's still not, I still wouldn't consider it fair. And when I have people tell me that, our program's too big or paying somebody too much, I do get upset about it because I know what other brands are paying. I know what we get out of the small but mighty team we have. And I've chosen everybody on this roster for strategic reasons, not just, it's not a roster full of my friends. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I've become friendly with these people, but they were never like my buddies that I wanted to backdoor a deal with, you know?
Yeah.
And they're part of the program because of what they offer our brand. They're part of our same mission, which is to make bitchin' stuff to ride in. And, you know, they're cool people that do rad stuff on bikes, you know?
Yeah.
And even to the Groms. Like, it's so funny. I started this TLD Groms program, which is just all the little kids on bikes.
That's sick.
If you get on the TLD Groms program, it's just a small package of some promo product. And it's, you know, we got 6-year-olds to 12-year-olds, I think,
cool,
is like the Grom fleet. We probably have, I don't know, 20 little Groms, boys and girls that we sponsor, and we add more every year. And all the parents, many of the parents, not all of them, they'll get all serious. Like, you know, what do you expect from little Johnny and Sarah? Like,
he's got 90,000 Instagram followers.
Are they supposed to be posting on the social, or what tags you want? And again, this isn't anything in paper. We don't have contracts with these kids.
Right.
And they ask for contracts sometimes. I'm just like, no, this is a handshake deal. And if little Johnny or Sarah needs to go ride for another brand because you don't think we're going to take care of you, or you know, whatever, so be it, you know. But you know, what do you want from us is always a question. I just like, it's so simple. Just don't be a douche, like, and promote fun on your bike. We want you to spread that virus to another little kid that just goes, oh my God, I got to get a mountain bike too, because he's having a blast or she's having a blast.
That's sick.
That's
cool.
That's it.
Yeah,
simple.
Cool. Real cool.
And then they're like, with the results, yeah, but what kind of results do they need to get? And I'm like, results? Like, we just hope you're riding at the trails.
Pass fourth grade, please.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't want it to become, again, you know, as the other half of our brand is Moto, and Moto's, I mean, there's 13-year-old kids making $300,000 a year,
sure.
and they're
pulled
just
out of
farming.
school. Yeah,
it's nuts, and I don't like it.
It's
you know,
crazy. It's so different, but it's kind of similar. That's what got me thinking today. It's like, you know, you look at going back in a roundabout way, kind of to the money. I saw a fact, and it kind of blew me away a few weeks ago. Did you watch the race where Marvin took Eli out?
Yep.
And, you know, the podcast I was listening to, Main Event Moto, obviously I learned it in a podcast. You know, Daniel said, you know, that pass will have been worth somewhere around like 70 grand. And I was thinking, holy shit, like, you know, you've got the upper echelon of mountain bike riders, like the downhill stuff, the World Downhill World Cup. They're not probably earning that, you know, at a race. It's like, but, you know, you look at how much a mountain bike is and how many they're selling and how much a dirt bike is. It's pretty similar these days, right?
Yeah.
I know,
yeah.
Again, it's hard to sort of draw that, you know, that perfect paradigm, but they are in a kind of similar spot. You know, a lot of people ride mountain bikes. There's obviously some money out there. I don't know. I just sort of like, especially in the UK, it feels like dirt bike, like motocross is kind of like dropping. Mountain biking's picking up, but the money just doesn't make sense. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, it's always been, and I looked at it from your perspective that you just talked about for so many years. Meaning, I really didn't know all the nuts and bolts of what moto people got paid, other than hearing or reading stuff. And then when I started working here, you know, overhearing directly the moto business and what people are paid. And I mean, it's still the ongoing joke. I mean, there's not a day goes by where I make some comment about the exposure that one of our mountain bikers gets over our motocross riders. And, you know, the mountain bikers generally crush what a moto guy gets in exposure, whatever that exposure is to you, whether that's views on a video, social account, or whatever. So,
but do you feel as well, and sorry to put in, to me, it's way more of a like supportive, nicer industry. Like if you read, I don't know, Eli's Instagram comments. There's hate on there. There's people calling him a bitch. You go on.
Oh yeah.
You go on
It's
whoever
rowdy.
else, someone else's who's similar sort of in the mountain bike world. You go on Gwyn's. It'll be like, good ride, dude. Do you know what I mean? It's like way more positive and like.
Oh, for sure.
Nice
And I think
industry.
that to the extent, I mean, it feels like the most hate I can recall is like, and it doesn't seem as bad, but it seemed like there was an era when like Menard, any track guy, like every track was like, he had some comments about it. And even I would be like, oh, God. And you'd read forums or whatever, and the comments were just, oh, Greg being a whiner again.
Right. I guess
And
as well as
it'd be like, it's not called for. Is that really called for? I don't think so. I think he's just making. Ultimately, he was just. Somebody asked him a question. What do you think of the track? And he's saying, "Oh, I wish it had a little bit more of this and that." And then he's now a whiner, but he just answered the guy's question. But my point is like, totally agree with what you're saying. Like the comments. Like I go to Vital MX forums and I mean, the people are vicious.
It's ruthless. I mean, obviously you've got that aspect that, Danny Hart, Gwyn, whoever, they're not racing each other on the day. Like they're not going ham and tongue at each other. But even so, it's like, it's just so different,
I think the closest we ever got, and this was pre-social media, but was when the 4-cross and the duel was happening. Cause you did have a lot of dirty, but it was all on the track shit talking or spectators. Like, Kareem Amore, Frenchie was known as the dirtiest rider for taking people out. Yeah. And so you probably would have had some of that back in the day, but I think these moto fans take it to the next level of hate, which is wild. And, and then back to the money thing. I pose this question all the time, and it's all about ROI and the return on the investment on a moto guy. That's not a us versus them thing, but the moto industry people will always tell me things like, yeah, but the moto races are on TV live every Saturday. The stadiums are sold out, the blah, 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 blah. But, I'm that guy that poses the other side of the argument. Like, okay, I'm looking at the stadium right now, and it looks like maybe you'd be lucky to say 2/3 of the stadium.
Right. Yeah. The camera angles are generous.
I mean, and it gets really annoying to hear the Supercross commentators. We got another sold out crowd. And I'm panning across the stadium, and I'm like, I need half the stadium full. And I get I have a buddy that works in the media biz, and he sends me the Supercross TV ratings. They're not that great. Right. They're, the live stream, just the live stream of the downhill broadcast on Red Bull TV, because I've seen those numbers too, just destroy what Supercross is. Granted,
really,
that number for the downhill stuff is a global number.
Yes, I was going to say it is global. Yeah.
But when you start adding in the replays, which gets into the millions, like the downhill stuff is pretty well exposed. And then they'll throw back to me, yeah, but there's only 6 or 7 of those downhills, and there's 18 Supercrosses. But does it justify the gear brands?
Yeah.
I mean, gear brands. I know what the number one paid mountain bike gear deal is, and I know what the highest paid moto gear deal is, and it's like 10 to 15 times more for the top moto gear deal, which is just how in the hell?
It's astronomical. Do you feel that we should be looking at Supercross then and kind of pulling, and not even Supercross? I mean, I know I'm saying Supercross all the time, but like American sports in general. I mean, you guys are good at promoting sporting events.
I honestly.
Should we go down that route?
And somebody smarter than me could tell me I'm wrong, but I think it's a big. I think oftentimes it's a big ego contest. Okay. And guys and these people have these budgets, and then they just devote to these insane athlete salaries that aren't really justified.
Yeah, it's almost like a piss off, right? Like,
yeah, and it's like they have to I don't know. It's like they're buying friends. Like, I want to hang out with the coolest rider. How much can I pay him? And that's totally unfair to say, but man, I've seen it for so many years.
Okay.
And I mean, I know how much gear we sell, and I have a pretty good idea of some of the other moto brands. Like, nobody's selling that much gear, so
yeah, where is this money?
I really don't get it. And we've had these pretty heavy conversations when working with Gwyn, because he works with a guy he's not I don't think he's his agent, but he helps guide him with
I heard
the strategy of representing yourself. And I talked to that guy at one of the races, and he gave me some rap about, you guys are all making billions of dollars, and Gwyn's just looking for his fair share. And I'm like, billions of dollars? Where are you getting that from, dude?
Wow.
So but you know what? I talk about it with buddies all the time, and they're like, hey, he's pulling it off. Props to him.
Yes.
And will he be around the long term, the bike industry, because he just loves bikes and the bike industry? Who knows? I really don't suspect, but does it really matter? I mean, he's putting on a show, racing his bike, and that's what his job is. So, and he's doing good at it.
Yeah, he's doing it.
And Luca almost beat him in round one, so we're stoked on that.
Yeah.
So.
At the end of the year, who do you think is going to be world champ?
Oh man, you'd be a fool to rule out Gwyn doing it again.
Yeah,
I think he's in a mode to just crush the record books.
Really, you think? Yeah, he seems pretty head down, determined sort of dude, right?
And while that first race was pretty tight with Luca being 0.7 off of him, and Luca didn't have a perfect run either. Neither did Gwyn. I don't think anybody did on that track.
That's gnarly.
One thing's for sure is, like, the season started off right, I guess. Like, minus Brooke getting hurt, like, we're everybody's in there.
Yeah, Loic as well, obviously, but yeah, we got a pretty good gauge as to,
Yeah, and then the intense boys all. Like, all three of them, Jack, Dean, and Charlie, just all being in there. Like, we're setting up for a bitchin' year. And we're in, again, it's been happening for a while, where everybody knows who the marked man is, and that's Gwyn, again, for X amount of years. But I think people are getting tired of getting beat by him.
Yeah.
And that's just great for the fans.
It is, definitely. You're always rooting to see the guy.
They're all working so hard, and taking it seriously. I think Dean Lucas said it best. I listened to a bunch of interviews on the internet, and if I took anything away from all the interviews I heard, what made the difference was, not partying. Like, he's training, and he had to tell his mates that he's not going out that night. I'm not talking about at the World Cups, as I'm sure he celebrated,
off-season, right?
Off-season stuff, and that they're probably all looking at Gwyn's Instagram, and he's in the gym and working out, and that's all he posts, and eating good food, and they're like, shit, I gotta do all that stuff.
But that's good, like you say, I guess for the good of the sport, it's going to drag everyone hopefully up more towards that level. I'm not saying they're not there right now, but, like, with the money and the training and all that sort of stuff, it should everyone should have to, go up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been others before him that elevated the game, but he definitely, we all know he did that, and everybody's stepping up. And his title last year wasn't easy. No. I mean, the quote unquote old man Greg had him handled, but freaking mechanicals and bad luck got the best of him. And I mean, and then back to who's taking the winning this year and the world champs and world cups and all that. I'll always be a diehard Greg fan, like to the core. Just being an old school guy for me, old school, you know, like I remember his first races. I was there, and like last year was the best season ever. Like, holy shit, Greg's gonna win the title.
I know, crazy,
and stoked for these young guns. And I was excited to see Finn Isles do his first senior race.
Yeah, I can't remember where he ended up, if I'm honest, but yeah,
I don't think. I want to say he was pretty far back, but
get the nerves out of the way on the first one, right? Like,
yeah, to do your first elite race on a rowdy track that nobody had ridden, it would have been so. Especially, I'm sure, just playing armchair psychologist, I'm sure Loic getting wrecked on the first run probably shook him up.
True. Like,
oh shit, man, I'm gonna have to take it easy, because I think Finn. I don't even know the kid, but other than the rest of us watching on the internet, he seems like a kid who could get excited on some tracks. And I think he played it smart. Just let's get one under the belt. And then I know I bring him up because somebody asked me, I don't know, a few weeks, it was before the World Cup. They're like, hey, so what's somebody that follows it, but not super into it. What's up with this Finn kid? Is he legit? And I'm like, I mean, I have, because I've watched him ride, and he's unreal, and he's got for such a young guy, he's got the right head on his shoulders with the skill. I was like, yeah, he's legit. He's the next. There's always been these "who's the next Sam Hill" quotes, and I don't think there has been one. You know, Troy Brosnan got pegged as the next Sam Hill, and.
Yeah, for sure, Finn. Yeah,
I mean, and maybe on results, the Troy analogy I get, but like Sam's that eye of the tiger, weird, like vicious, secretly attack mode vibe that Sam had. I see that in Finn. So
Finn's section in the new Gamble film is insane. So good.
Can't wait.
It's so good.
I haven't seen it.
It's so good. Yeah, it's real good. But it's cool, like, as well, to see Sam heading over and doing that in the enduro side of things too, right? Like, that seems to have brought more attention over there if it needed any. It's that seems
it's cool
mainly
that
positive.
The only thing that's bumming me out, it's been hella awesome to watch those clips of him riding. It's just insane, because it's, I guess, back to the old Sam style we all love to watch. Not saying he lost that in downhill, but he definitely, as he's admitted and everybody knows, he was kind of over it, the World Cup downhill stuff. So watching him ride and win has been awesome, because when Sam's winning, we're all winning, and that's bitching. But I do hate to see him disparage downhill, World Cup downhill, and he hasn't been, like, in my opinion, blatantly negative towards downhill, but it goes back to that whole that us versus them attitude, and I've seen it. It's because of that attitude on a different genre of the sport, whether it be you're a downhill guy and you're talking shit on cross country, or you're a cross country guy and you're talking shit on short track, or you're a downhill guy and you're talking shit on slalom or dual or four cross. And it hurts those smaller subsets.
Okay.
And ultimately kills them, you know? Like, everybody shit talked on slalom for so long that they're like, all right, fuck it. Kill it.
Yeah, true. So, four cross too, in a way. Like,
then, you know, four cross had, you know, its growing problems, and the tracks were expensive. It had other logistical issues, but ultimately people talking shit about it killed it. I'm not saying enduro organizers and racers talking shit on downhill is going to kill downhill, because downhill's still the place we're always going to go to watch the greatest racing you can find. But it has been, I find it super annoying when Chris Ball disparages World Cup downhill, and I've seen a couple comments from Sam,
Right.
just how much more quality track you get on an enduro weekend compared to a downhill. Like, really, we don't need to go down that road, because it's, I don't know, in Sam's case, and maybe I'm exaggerating what I feel like he's said, but it discredits and insults everything that built him. Yeah. There is no Sam Hill without downhill racing.
Sure. Yeah.
And then even the organizers and the promoters with the just constant circle jerking about how amazing enduro is. And it's like, we get it. The tracks look rad. The venues look bitchin'. The bikes are sick. We'll all get there. Like,
yeah.
stop fluffing yourself up. Like, you're selling out the sign-up sheets are sold out in an hour or something. So it's not like you need business, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be like me screaming from the rooftops about a helmet we don't have in stock. and I'm not getting it in stock for the next 2 years. I'm still just screaming about it. Everybody else's helmet sucks. Wear ours. But you can't get it.
It's a fair point, man. It's good. It's a good analogy. I like that.
So, but then there's guys that, I've heard a couple interviews where Jesse Melamed, and a couple of the other guys, where they're fans of World Cup downhill, and no way would I ever do that stuff, man. Like, that's too gnarly. Or I think I heard something with G interviewed. I don't think it was Callahan, but he interviewed somebody.
I'm Vital.
Yeah.
Was it Callahan? It might have been.
And there was a lot of mutual respect
for
each other's genre, which I really liked. And so that's my perspectives on,
like it, man.
But ultimately having Sam and enduro has made me pay attention. I mean, I didn't really pay attention as much as I do now.
I guess it's just because, it's kind of hard to watch it. Like, it's not easy, is it?
Oh, it's a
moving forward.
Nightmare.
That's kind of, obviously it'll improve for sure, but it's kind of hard to see how it's going to improve. I mean,
I just feel like, and those people, the media people, the organizers, the racers that are doing it know a lot more than my spectator side of it. But it's just going to take a significant investment to properly to cover all the stages. Like, we get to see a downhill World Cup race. I mean, who's going to put up the money for that? Yeah. And you're going to have to, like, imagine the live part of it. Like, nobody. I mean, I know in Whistler, the Whistler EWS, they give you updates all day on the big screen in the village.
Okay.
And the SRAM truck's always there, and that's always my home base during Crankworks, is hanging with the SRAM crew. And I mean, it's so sporadic, the updates, and then you just kind of tune out, and then you ultimately just wait for the final stage, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
That is rad. Yeah. Where you just, can he make up that difference? And it is fun to kind of just get little updates and stuff. It's just different,
Yeah, it is.
I'm not saying it's bad or better. It's a whole different way of how I've personally been
and how
watching
you
racing.
For sure.
I've watched 2 main methods of racing in my time, and it was to beat the clock in a downhill or to race the other rider in a cross country race.
Yeah.
And now we have this new format of enduro, which is exciting and cool and all that good stuff. But the following it is
tough.
It's just different. It's just different. So we'll have to
see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I'm sure there's always a solution to everything.
Yeah.
And it's still new too. Like, it's a while it's been around forever in Europe and stuff, like, the main stage of EWS is totally in its infancy. Mm-hmm. So all I ask is that they stop talking shit on downhill and just focus on their own thing.
Cool. All right, man. Do you want to do some listener questions and we get you out of here?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Sure.
All right, man. Let's Hang on, my phone. Let me turn my phone on. Just give us a sec. I've managed to put this thing in weird mode, airplane mode. Okay. All right. The first listener question. Instagram @JackRice88. Do you feel like the direction of USDH has changed recently, in brackets, within the last year? What needs to happen to keep the sport healthy here in the US? And then wants to add, you are the man.
Jeez, the man.
You are the man.
Skinny man. U.S. downhill, back to Gwyn. He definitely gave a kickstart to younger riders wanting to maybe pursue the downhill thing, which is like that's a big accomplishment, because it already was hard even before the downfall of U.S. downhill racing with Norma Nationals and GRTs and whatever 900 other series it's been called. But even in its heyday, it was hard to be a downhill racer. You had to have your mom or your buddies shuttle you up to the top of Laguna or wherever you lived to find some trail to practice on, but you at least had, a couple races you could go to in your area. Those have all gone away.
Right.
But man, just in here in SoCal and seeing people shuttling at Lake Elsinore and Laguna, I do see it more than ever. So people they're digging deeper because of this allure from a Gwyn who spawned these other guys like Charlie Harrison and Lucas Shaw and Nico Mullally and all these young American kids that would like Charlie Harrison was already, like, I sponsored him when I was in Intense back in 2010 or whatever, when he was just a little 13-year-old kid. So he was already in the mode of racing.
Got you. Yeah.
Before the big Gwyn
era sort of thing. Yeah.
Era. Yeah. Yeah. So he was already en route, and he didn't give a shit about making money or being a star. He just loved downhill racing.
Cool.
And so those kind of guys have been around, but definitely empowered kids to keep at it. And even, a kid like Nick Nesteroff, who was, factory intense, and then he gets let go of, but he's still making a go at it because he just loves racing downhill. So
is there more like trail centers and stuff opening up then? Like, especially around California area?
Not really. We just had this
Elsinore's
new...
not a bike park, is it? That's just like trails.
Yeah, it's just a trail off the side of the road.
Yeah.
The only true trail center we've had open up is up in Lake Arrowhead. It's called Santa's Village.
Okay.
Skyline Park, I think, is the technical name, but super bitchin' bike park. That's very, very UK style to me. Like, it's got a pub, it's got a place to eat, and it gets a little bit of weather.
It's raining all the time.
And there's that sense of community with your buddies after the ride kind of thing. But that's what we need more of. But the whole U.S. downhill scene is, it's not dying, it's not booming. Right. I'd say it's picking up a little bit. I'm more encouraged. I am encouraged with these Groms, man. Like, we have so
cool,
many little kids.
I like that, yeah.
And they're not. I guess what's cool about it is they're allured by mountain biking. Yeah, they're into the rock star downhillers and enduro riders, but some of them like cross country, and some of them like, cyclocross. They kind of do it all, like, which is rad. They're not so focused. Then some of them just dirt jump. Like, I'll do some downhilling, and so at least they're just riding bikes, which is all of our goals. But I guess, and the Windrock thing, the Windrock Park with Nico, who's been working on, is super encouraging. That, what balls that kid has to try and get that off the ground. So and it seems like there's a lot of that vibe. Is a lot of people are talking about Nico and Windrock, and man, if people are just talking about it, and sharing stories of, even if it's just a video they saw or an interview with Nico about how he came about to working with those guys. And so it's definitely not dying, but it's and it's so hard too, because back to the downhill bikes, how many downhill bikes are being sold? Well, it's less and less every year, but I still own my downhill bike. I don't ride it much, but when I do, it's sick, and it's a hell of a lot safer for me to ride that bike and get loose than my trail bike. But so I think it's healthy. I don't think it's like got the flu or sickly, but it's definitely not huge momentum, but there's a little momentum, I'd say, ultimately.
Good. Like it. Good answers. All right. Who we got next? At Lawrence Cycles on Instagram. I'm guessing these guys are a bike shop somewhere. How did TLD look into new clothing technologies to improve their gear? What has worked and what hasn't?
Oh man, like I said earlier, we hit the reset button on the whole line. We knew, I think twofold was, the stuff wasn't that easy to wear from a graphic color story.
Okay.
I guess a lot just for the trail, for the average casual trail rider, guy or girl. The stuff was not obscene, but just
you got to be fast to pull it off.
Yeah. And so that was just the graphic design element. Our fits weren't dialed. They were kind of all over the map. And then most importantly was the fabrics. Like, they weren't true wicking, quick dry fabrics.
Okay, so you made a lot of changes to the range in that respect then too.
Yeah, everything. The entire bike line has new fabrics. And so our creative director, Silvio, he's from the fashion industry. So this guy knows fabric technologies, and he works super tight with the mills. Like, he's going over there down to the yarn level of the fabrics being used. And from new innovations like XT2, which is a silver lined fabric that's antimicrobial, we have in a couple jerseys, to using real Cool Max fabric in our Skyline shorts. So just making all this stuff comfortable on your skin, because we had a pretty long stint of the fabric it wasn't comfortable on your skin, and when it got wet, it stayed wet, and it didn't breathe well. It was
made for California, basically.
Yeah, and it was what the vendors were offering us. They'd send the guys some fabric swatches. Yeah, that's cool, but they just didn't really know.
Okay.
So Silvio's definitely upped our game. And I know quality apparel, but he's really taken it to the next level. And I'm learning a lot from him, and construction of the garments. Like, he has a lot of tailoring experience as well. So how garments fit. He's an ex motocross, not motocross, but like off-road motorcycles. Right. He's Italian, European enduro stuff. So he's new to the bike thing, but he and I working together is, the articulation on a motorcycle and a bicycle are pretty similar. You're still in the same position, the stance,
Yeah.
So he's just elevated our game, and he's brought so much to the table. I learned something from him every day. He learned something from me on what, cyclist, mountain biker, and BMXer needs are. So, and again, we're still more improvements to come. And then I guess finally that Blue Sign Approved was an initiative that he and I talked about as a long-term dream. Like, man, I'd be bitching to get this Blue Sign Approved.
That's cool.
Stamp on our clothing, which is, non-toxic dyes, sustainable construction in the factories, and just more of a mindset for sustainability.
Yep.
Which we didn't think we could get as far as we did, but 80% of the line is Blue Sign Approved, and by next year the entire bike line will be
sick.
Blue Sign Approved. So leaving less of a footprint from our little brand is is important, and that's
goes a long
it's
way
not
now,
really-
man, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not I think Pine does a few pieces. Zimstern, that German or
Yeah,
Austrian brand,
true, yeah,
does a
they
couple
do, yeah.
pieces.
Yeah.
But there is not. I challenge anybody to find me a line that's as extensive of a range of Blue Sign approved stuff, and a lot of people don't even know what it is. But you just Google Blue Sign approved, and it's pretty fascinating what you have to go through to get your garments approved. So we're pretty stoked on that, especially for such a small brand we are, and our retail prices didn't go up from it.
Cool.
We just worked on costing a little bit better. And so again, back to the small but mighty machine that we are. Just, it's a very small crew, but we are truly, through Troy's direction, passionate about bikes and motos for sure.
Sick. Final question, and it's a good one actually. Came in from @YannickRichter18 on Instagram. If you could ride the party train of your lifetime, which trail or track would you choose, and which sick dudes would you ride with?
Holy crap!
Boom.
Yannick
dropping bombs on the last one.
That's heavy, Yannick. Dude, the only thing I can think of, not only, but I'm a knee-jerk reactor, so I just think about that Schladming trail in Death Grip with Brendog, and
yes,
I mean I'd like to add more people to that run, myself, and oh my God, just so many of the old school pros, but a track like that where you're just yelling the whole way down and would be insane. I mean, you'd have to throw Palmer in there, the PDs of that era, a lot of the loose Euros of the day that weren't the guys you wanted to hang with, but they were so sketchy on a bike that you loved watching them ride. Like there was a dude like Bruno Zonchi and Gianluca Bonanami, these two Italian crackheads that just like these guys were. Bruno Zonchi was a podium guy,
right?
Once in a while in the 90s.
Right? Okay.
These guys are like super old school, very obscured guys, but oh my God, they were fun yet scary to watch. But I like watching that stuff.
Yeah.
I think Lee said something in her podcast about Missy. She got some heat for saying Missy didn't have any talent, but Missy, of course she had talent, but she was scary to watch ride a bike.
Yeah.
She somehow could haul ass down the hill in this reckless renegade style and pull off a win. And
some people have
so
that though, eh? Like just
so I guess
knuckle downer.
So the talent is not dying. Maybe not so much being graceful on your bike, and a talent is a talent. So I guess she just confused the word talent. But people like that are exciting to watch, not just from a style standpoint, like, because it is awesome to watch the Brandon Semenuk ride. I mean, nobody can do what that guy does.
No. The new stuff he put out, was it today or yesterday? Holy shit.
I think yesterday.
I pulled.
And what's funny is like Brandon's always, he's pivoting into this content production athlete,
Mm-hmm.
He's still competing a little bit, but his focus is creating content for his partners. So like we have a Troy Lee Designs project coming out with him. That's
okay.
A little short video that's based around the gear, and for us, that's an awesome partner to have. So, but what I was getting at was, I always think in my head like, okay, there's going to come a time where I'm just over these Brandon videos because I've seen it all, right? Like,
yeah,
I can't watch a guy do the sickest shit every time and be pumped on it, but every time he sends a freaking video link, hey, check it out, here's the latest one, I'm like,
you elevated again.
It really is. It's a testament to his talent on the bike, but his artistry in filming with, working with Rupert, and Rupert's talent of editing. Because again, like that last one, they took those same amazing Brandon riding clips, but the way it was edited was like, I've already watched it 4 times because I'm just like,
so good.
You're catching little nuances of the other shot that's being shown.
Yeah.
And again, maybe, I don't watch anything but bike videos. I'm not somebody like Clay. I know Clay Porter. He watches a lot of other
stuff.
Yeah, he watches surf stuff, snow stuff, skate stuff. I'm just a bike nerd. And so maybe that what they did yesterday, Rupert and Brandon, maybe that's happening every day in skate or snow.
True. Yeah.
But I have no idea. I just know I was blown away by it, and I want to see it again.
Rad. All right, man.
Cool.
Pretty much blew through 2 hours. So yeah, thank
Holy
you.
shit.
I know, time flies.
Oh, right on.
Thank you so much for taking the time out and jumping on episode.
2 hours. So everybody's got to wake up. Wake up.
Nah, not at all, dude. People love the longer stuff. It's cool. Really, 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 really stoked to have you on here. So thank you so much for doing that. Is there anyone you want to say like a quick thank you to, or any links, like anything that you want people to check out? Like, shoot.
Links. I don't know. I just thankful wise, I already said it in this thing, but I got to thank my wife, Lee.
Cool.
We've been together since 93 or something. It's still going strong. She just left for Moab this morning for a big women's bike event. So, Jeff Stever and Troy Lee, and Bob Marchavicus, my 3 main.
Let's get Troy on here one time.
Original.
You, Troy, and me.
Yeah, for
hang
sure.
out and have a bottle of wine, and we'll just chat through some stuff. That'd be sick.
Yeah, the dude is, when he's on one, the stories that guy tells.
I can imagine. That'd be cool, man. We should try do that.
He's a pretty not shy. What's another word for shy? But he's a pretty
introvert almost.
Yeah, for sure.
There you
go. And more so than ever. So even at the Sea Otter, we're talking about that stage helmet, I was like, dude, I need you to be the guy on there. Like, it's to have Troy Lee of Troy Lee Designs talking about this thing is bitching. He's like, no, you do it. So
we got to lube him up a little bit.
Yeah, we got to get him out there more.
That'd be cool, dude. If you ever want to do that, just holler. We'll try and make it happen.
Yeah, I'll keep harassing him.
Pretty sick. But again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a wrap. Thank you. Boom.
Cool, man.
Sick.
Peace out.
All right.
Later.
And there you have it, guys. Episode number 49 in the bag. Don't forget, Steel City Downhill this coming Saturday in Sheffield. If you're around, stop by, say hello. We've got episode 50 next, a special episode, so keep your eyes peeled. We'll be releasing some information about that. Don't forget, if you have enjoyed this episode, please head to iTunes, leave a review, let Stikman know you listened, all that sort of good stuff. It really helps. And don't forget to follow us on social media. It's at The Hook It Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, The Hook It Podcast. We have a closed Facebook group too. Just search The Hook It Podcast, and you'll find it and come in and join that. It's pretty cool. We've got a bunch of like-minded folk in there talking shit and having some banter. That's it, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Been emotional. Peace out.